Hi, guys. Welcome to the How I Raised It podcast, the show where you get an inside look at how real entrepreneurs and investors raise capital for their businesses. I'm your host, Nathan Beckert, and today's episode is with Stacy Havener of Havener Capital, a firm that helps asset managers launch and raise funds. In this episode, we go deep into how to build your personal brand, one that both attracts and repels investors, and we talk about why each is important. We also get into how to tell your story, tips for running that first pitch meeting, and much more. If you're tuning into this podcast to learn how to raise capital for your business, be sure to check out Foundersuite.com if you're a startup or Fundingstack.com if you're a VC or advisor. Both platforms will give you access to an awesome collection of tools for raising capital, including a massive investor database, a new Get Intro tool to help you get warm intros to those investors, a CRM to manage your raise, a virtual data room to run due diligence, plus pitch deck hosting, investor updates, email tools, and much more. Last but not least, if you enjoy this conversation and think someone else would too, please share it with them and hit that subscribe button to get all our latest episodes. Thank you. Now sit back and enjoy this chat with Stacy.
Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com and Fundingstack.com. Today I have Stacy Havener of Havener Capital coming to us from Newport, Rhode Island. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me, Nathan.
Very good. Newport I've never been there. It sounds like a nice place.
It's lovely. Now, I think Newport is best known as being a summer destination. So this is where all the mansions are of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, et cetera. It's a big yachting community. I do not have even a boat, but it is really magical in the winter too. So we are coming live and direct from Newport, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Perfect. Let's go right into it. What is Havener Capital? What do you do?
Yeah. So we are a sales and marketing consulting firm. And that is a bit of a pivot, if I'm honest. I mean, look, I'm an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. We're talking to entrepreneurs. So we're all cut from the same cloth, so to speak. But our roots are really in capital raising. So the bulk of my career has been raising money for startups, emerging managers, sort of firms on paper that shouldn't be succeeding. And we still do that. We also have a marketing arm because we believe that you need both. But I think the big pivot for us in the last year or so has been realizing that we can help more people if, in addition to sort of doing, we are sharing our expertise. Sort of the knowing component is really what we're leaning into now.
Gotcha. Way to scale it up. Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense, actually. Not to turn this about me because this is focused on you, but
Yeah.
I used to consult to startups. I'd help them raise capital. And, I could work with 5 or 6 at a time, but that was part of my motivation for launching Foundersuite. Like, let's work with tens of thousands,
That's, and because you've done it, it's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift to raise money. It takes at least 2 times, 3 times as long as you think it's going to. It costs more than you think, 2x, 3x, maybe more. It's more painful than you ever imagine. Like, it's all those things. So you're right. You are limited in how many people you can help in a big way.
Yeah. So who are your target customers then? I know I saw asset managers. It sounds like that includes a couple different types of funds. But
yeah, I think so. I mean, the people that we serve, I would say it's a lot. It's probably very aligned with your audience as well. Like, we really believe in specialists. We believe in boutiques. We believe in founder-led businesses. And as we all know, it is more and more challenging for firms like that to succeed because the biggest players keep getting bigger and the long tail is under more and more pressure. So the big funds, they're spinning up billion-dollar new funds, new vintages all the time. And then you have these great talented boutiques who are struggling even to be seen. I am not interested in helping bigs get bigger. I am interested in helping boutiques get the shot they deserve.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's take a boutique, and can we use like an emerging manager venture fund
Yeah, we can
as
totally do that.
as
Sure.
an example? So
Yeah.
they come to you, they connect with you. What sort of happens next? What's your process look like?
It's a great question. So I think there's an old way, new way thing happening here. There's an old way, new way thing happening. And here's what I mean by that. The old way of raising money, and in our example that we're talking about would be for a fund, is yeah, it's dialing for dollar. It's like the 80s called and want their sales strategy back, right? It's dialing for dollars. It's 2 martini lunches. It's blast emails that no one wants to read because they're 4 paragraphs long. It's all of this outdated strategy that doesn't work and is labor intensive, people intensive. Like it costs a lot, resources, time, all the things. Well, I have found, and by the way, I fell into this accidentally. What I have found is that's not what people buy. People don't buy your pitch. They don't buy your features and benefits or your bullet points or your crappy email or your stupid martini lunch or your pizza or your branded golf balls. No one gives a shit. Can I say that?
Yeah, you
Sorry.
can.
Okay. Um, Especially for who we're talking about, emerging anything, people buy people. And that's not like a fundraising thing. That's just a human nature thing. So if we believe that is true, if we believe that the science of human behavior and behavioral finance and choice hacking, if you will, is real, if we believe that, then we have to update our playbook to meet that. So for us, the personal brand, everyone's like, God, no. Personal brand, I want to be behind my screen managing my fund. Personal brand, power of personal brand, the art of storytelling, and the science of human behavior are the 3 things that are going to unlock this new playbook for raising capital. And the more emerging you are, the more that holds true.
Cool. Let's actually delve into each of those.
Yeah.
Starting with personal brand, wherever you want to start. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
So personal brand's a great place to start because I almost think it's the center of the whole thing. And by the way, this is super uncomfortable for every founder receiving it, myself included, and I'm sure for you, because no one really likes doing it. It's vulnerable, it's awkward, like it feels braggy. You just don't want to talk about yourself. And yet, if we believe that people buy people or people invest with people, then you have to. And
What does one start? Okay, let's
yeah.
say
Okay,
someone
so
says,
let's think about it.
yeah.
So you don't have a track. What are they even going to buy? It like if you try, you don't have a track record. If you do, it's short. You don't have a ton of data. So it's like there is not even anything to hang your hat on. Even if you wanted to use the new playbook, you really can't. So then where you start is with the founder's backstory. Because you and I both know that making the decision to be an entrepreneur is not an easy choice. It's not an easy road. It's not your craft. This is like a whole different animal, a whole different thing that you're embarking on. And you do it because you can't not do it, because you believe in something so much. Your why is so big. Your reason for doing something a different way is so strong to you that this is the only option. That is what investors are looking for. And it's really difficult when you're receiving this and you're hearing me and you're like, this cannot be this simple. I'm telling you that it's so much more simple than we make it, especially in venture investing. Like these are really smart people who have a lot of ideas and they can think in very complex structures. And so we make it harder than it needs to be. Now, simple doesn't mean easy. So it's simple, but really getting to a place where you can tell your backstory in a powerful way that answers the question, make me care. Why should I care? That's it. Because what we do is we typically just do bullet points. Well, I was here and then I went here and then I went there and now I'm here. Started my own firm. And no one cares. So like make me care, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's where we start. I was a few minutes late for our convo because I was in the middle of working with a founder on this exact thing.
Yeah. Interesting. And okay, that's good. It's hard for people to tell their own story though and tease that out.
Very
Do you have
hard.
any tips for teasing that out? The why
Yes.
should I care? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I do. So it is because, again, it's also because we're uncomfortable. So we're uncomfortable, and when that happens, we want to rush through it. Like we want to really talk about our craft or the thing we've built or what we're doing. We don't really want to talk about ourselves. So two things happen. We rush, or if we decide, okay, fine, I'll listen to that chick from Newport, Rhode Island. I'm going to tell my story. Then the other thing that happens is we go way too long
Yeah.
because we don't know what else to do. So we just start going through our resume and elaborating on a whole bunch of stuff that no one really cares about. So the trick is to tell your story in this way. Here's the framework. We're going to do a couple of frameworks. We're going to do this framework, which is to say, I want you to think about so the first thing is, who are you telling the story to? Okay. Who's your hero? And you are the guide. So you're the guide, they're the hero. So they're Luke Skywalker, you're Yoda, they're Katniss, you're Haymitch. You don't have to be drunk, but whatever. And so you're the guide. Now, you are the main character in your backstory, though. But you're telling the backstory to show your hero why you are the guide for them. So it has to resonate with them. And it has to show them that you get their journey, that you understand that they are somewhere and they want to get somewhere else. And they need to believe that you can help them do that. So when you tell your backstory, it has to tie to why you're the guide for them. Because you're going to have lots of interesting parts of your backstory, but why should they care? Okay, so that's one.
Can you give an example of that?
We
Like
can,
maybe a
yeah,
client,
totally.
you can
Totally.
anonymize a client, but maybe, yeah. Good.
Yeah. Well, let's even use me. I'm happy to be the guinea pig
Sure.
because I've had to do this for myself. So when I tell my backstory, I start with the fact that it doesn't make any sense that I've raised $8 billion in the investment management industry for firms who have no business succeeding, right? For startups, emerging funds, just all the things, right? Undiscovered managers, all of it. And then I elaborate on the fact that I didn't take a traditional path to get here. I'm an English major. I'm a poet. I wanted to be a college professor in literature. I paid my way through school. I went to a state school. I mean, you name the things. I am not.
You did it all opposite of the
All
traditional
opposite.
path.
All
Right.
opposite. So now let's pause on that for a second. Because a lot of founders feel this way.
Mm.
Now, not all, but the ones who come to us feel seen, don't they? Because if I say that and any part of that feeling out of place or non-traditional path or fighting against the odds or not, having the silver spoon or the father who was a Wall Street exec or whatever, like that resonates with them. And so they start to think, she understands me. I feel seen. Right?
Sure.
So it's not just that I've raised a ton of money. It's not just the success, though that is an important proof point. It's the fact that I understand the journey. Okay, so that's a great example of why I'm the guide for some people and not others, which means that when you tell the story, your story, any story, this will be another framework we'll do. It has to attract and repel. In
Mm.
order for it to be good, it has to be sharp. Meaning, you might love it, Nathan, but Sam over there hates it, and that's fine. Because in order for me to attract my ideal client, I have to be willing to repel the wrong one.
And let me see if I can translate that. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you are repelling. So I could be cool, totally off base, but
Yeah,
you're
that's fine.
attracting kind of the rebels, the misfits,
Yeah.
the outcast founders and venture fund managers. You're repelling the folks who maybe are seeking that, you know, Ivy League, Harvard Business School, um, strict lineage career path,
You
right?
got it.
The traditional, yeah, right.
Now, so you nailed it. Now here's the funny thing. The funny thing about it is, so all of this, by the way, is target market work. Because again, we started out with who are you telling the story to? Who's the hero? And
Yeah.
then you're the guide. So when you're doing the attract repel now, you're trying to attract that hero and you're willing to repel the potential clients who don't match that. But the interesting thing about target market is that's who you're speaking to, that's who you're for. You can always say yes to somebody who comes to you. Do I have really big firms who call me and say, I think you could help us? Of course I do. Then it's on me to decide, is this actually a good fit?
Yeah.
So you're right. It attracts and repels, but you kind of can't control who it attracts. You can only just say, I'm talking to this particular profile or persona, not to use a kind of tired word, and then you kind of let that fall out. Now, so that's two, being brave enough to attract and repel. There's also an element, I'm going to give you a hack in a second, but there's an element that I have really been working on in my own journey, which is the end. So how you tell the story matters. How you tell it.
Okay.
And I think what happens to us is sometimes we're like, great, now I got to memorize this thing. And what happens when you memorize something and you try to say it back? What does it sound like?
Pretty rote. Yeah.
Like you memorized it.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, it basically sounds like you memorized it. And so we don't want that because that's not authentic and it doesn't vibe. So the piece that people remember in a story are the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things they're going to remember. And in order for it to really resonate, there needs to be high stakes. There needs to be tension.
Mm.
So you can't kind of go like, well, I had a job at a company and then I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and so I launched a business. You're like, okay, big deal.
So what? Yeah.
Yeah, so what? So that doesn't sound that challenging. Where's the mess? Where's the hard part you got through? I'm not cheering for you on this. There's like no reason to cheer for you. There's nothing to overcome. So don't forget that. But the things you want to remember are the beginning and the end. The end, and this is a place I've really had to work myself and with clients, is that the backstory ending needs to tie to your hero's future story.
Wow.
Okay, so let's pause. That's big. Yeah. All right. So here, when I would tell my backstory, I would do the whole, I've raised $8 billion against the odds, and I'm a blue collar kid from a working class town who got the wrong degree from the wrong school, and I'm a woman, right? Okay, do all that. And then I would get to the end and I would just go, and here I am.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know what to say, and now I'm here. And it just ended so flat. Like, okay, there's sort of like nothing to say, or like, oh, wow, that was a good story. Like, don't know what to say next. So the trick is to pull the thread forward to where we're going as the guide for that hero. Right? And it doesn't even have to be like a big deal. So I might say something like, And now I'm proud to lead the team at Havener Capital as we help our founder-led specialists on their journey to go from, where they like to go from the shadows to the spotlight, or to find their true fans, or whatever I'm feeling that day, right? But the point is that I'm tying a bow on my backstory as the main character and coming to, you're the hero, I'm the guide, and I'm going to get you from where you are to where you want to go. So
Gotcha.
that's the future story piece.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recap. So we're going to do the first one we worked on. What the heck did we work on first? The first framework was, hero guide. Target market, who are you talking to? Hero guide. Then we did attract and repel. And then we did the delivery, which is memorize the beginning, memorize the end. You need high stakes. And the ending needs to tie to their future story.
Tell me a little bit more on time. I like this a lot. Tell me a little more on tying to the future story, because is that kind of connecting your backstory of being, this person with the wrong degree, everything, to, hey, my clients have raised 8 billion, and you're going to be the next one on that.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So when I do mine, I should have just done mine. But when I do mine, I start with my situation, right? Because I start with, so this is a nice hack here. You could start with the end and then rewind. That's a powerful way to start. Or another one of my favorites is you start right in the mess. So let's say you're at a big firm and it got sold. This is the story I was just working on before I joined you. It got sold. And now you're in the middle of this merger and you're sensing you're about to get fired. That's high stakes.
Sure. Yeah.
So you could start right there, just punch right. And you know what? Everyone's like, oh shit, that's tough. Or I can relate to that, right? So that's another thing. It's got to be something like a shared experience. Now you back up and you tell the story, right? So for me, I start with the end. My name's Stacy Havener. I'm the founder and CEO of Havener Capital. I've raised $8 billion for new funds, emerging managers, boutiques, firms who on paper shouldn't succeed. So I'm at the end. I've raised all this money. But on paper, none of that makes sense. Now I'm going to go back because I'm a blue-collar kid from a working-class town who got the wrong degree from the wrong school, and I'm a girl. So that you can see, I've memorized that. I say that line every time.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of my fave lines. Okay. And then I've gone back. Now I'm going to take it forward. So I'm going to talk about how why am I even here then? I got the wrong degree from the wrong school. I was paying my way through school. I wanted to be a college professor. I went to school locally. My high school soccer coach was a fund manager. I don't know. Can't make it up. Okay. He ran $1 billion small cap equity fund, which at the time that was a big shop in small cap. He knew my situation. He offered me a job. He said, I'm going to launch a new fund. You can come here and work, save up some money, and go back to grad school, get your PhD in literature, and become a professor. I never left.
Yeah.
Right? I never left. And this is another one of my memorized things. It turns out in an industry full of men who love numbers, there was a place for a girl who loves words.
That's good.
And then I talk about story. So you see, it's all I'm going to talk about story. I'm going to talk about why story was such a big part of my success, and only by accident, because that's what I was studying. That's my passion. But it turns out people do business with people, even here. And I didn't know what I was doing. It took me a while to really unpack. I kept raising money. All different funds, all different managers. And someone was like, what are you doing? Because this shouldn't work. This shouldn't be working. And I was like, what do you mean? I thought this is what everyone's doing. No. These firms don't raise money like that. What are you doing different? And it turned out to be story. So that piece, all of that now leads me to your question of how do you make the ending something they care? Because you nailed it. I can then show them. Now I can take you on that journey too.
Yeah. Right.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's good. There was a lot of interesting stuff there. I think we've covered a lot of the new way. What about
Mm-hmm.
science of human behavior? I
Yeah, so
guess.
human behavior. It's, you know, I think about this a lot when I think about like, okay, if you were going to get a salesperson, what do you really want them to be like ninja at?
Hmm.
And in our industry, in the investment industry, they're sort of like, well, they really need to understand investing. They really need to understand investing. If it's a public equity manager, they need to really understand public equity markets or whatever. They need to have their CFA or, if it's VC, like I want them to have, worked in VC for years. Like I want that industry specific knowledge. I don't know if I agree with that. I think the most important skill a salesperson has is understanding human behavior,
Okay.
why people buy, why they make decisions.
Yeah.
Because they don't make decisions based on knowledge. Now everyone's gonna be like, no way. This is a really smart industry. Allocators make decisions, based on lots of data and lots of information. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't have a place, but if you study buying, human behavior around buying, a very high percentage, 80, 90% of that decision is subconscious. That is what the science tells us. That is what the studies say. So let's just unpack that in a simple way. What that means to me is that most of us in the old playbook are aiming our pitches at the heads of the people who are buying. We're aiming at their brain. I am going to show you and explain to you why this is a very sound, smart decision. But we're skipping the heart. And if buying is subconscious, that means the heart, the science says the heart is the arbiter. The heart is the one that says, hey, you know what? This sounds cool. Hey, brain, I think we should like look at this. It's different. It's interesting. It's resonating with me. I think this is a good use of your energy to learn more. That is literally how it works scientifically. But we don't do that. We go right to the brain and the bullet points with the data, with the charts and the stats, and we just like throw up data. We just throw up on these people with all this data, and the brain is like, I'm too busy for this.
Mm.
I don't agree. I don't even know, like, I'm out.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like it needs both though? Like,
It
kind of,
does.
yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So then what that says is not that you don't need all the other things, it's the order.
Mm.
That is also why personal brand and story matter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because first they need to believe in you, and the way you get them there is through your story. You also have stories you can tell about your why and sort of like why you're building this thing and why anyone should care about the thing that you've created, not the features and benefits, the why,
Yeah.
right? So, why this thing you've created, plus the human behavior. So now your heart is kind of like, oh, this, your subconscious, if we want to use the terminology from the scientific studies, your subconscious is engaged. And now your brain has been called to task. So, yes, now you want to start meeting them. But I think what happens in our industry is we go too deep too soon.
Yeah.
And we just skip the part that needs to be engaged. There's this quote or whatever that says, all things being equal, my best friend wins.
Sure. Uh-huh. Good.
So the fund managers think, oh, well, I outperformed that firm over there by 5 basis points over time, so I should win. Come on.
Yeah. So to tie some of these pieces together, you mentioned like the beginning and the end of the story are most important, what people
Important.
remember. So
Yeah.
kind of starting off with the backstory, the why, then getting into your numbers, your metrics, your logical stuff, and then concluding with how do you conclude that? Getting back to
Okay.
sort of the
So
you.
this is great
Yeah.
because also I can sort of see that you're like, oh, now I'm like thinking about my pitch and now how I'm going to do this. But so I hate pitching. I
Uh-huh.
hate it. Okay? I think it's just it's awful. That's sort of old way. Dog and pony. I've got you. Now you have to listen to me for however long.
Right.
All right. So so if you're forced to pitch because you're in a pitch competition, I guess, fine. Then yes, I would use the framework you said. Start with your story, take it your personal story, take it into the job story of what you're building and why anyone should care about that, and the problem it solves, etc. And yeah, some data. And I think you still need a powerful ending, right? So I'd probably come back to story because that's what they're going to remember that. And if you end with features and benefits, it's kind of like when I was ending with, and here I am,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like
Mhm.
lame. Okay. So come back to story and how this buyer is going to go from where they are to where they want to be and put some emotion in there and have a powerful ending. Now, my favorite intro meeting or first meeting is is basically we don't go first and this is about story and it's about human behavior, so both the art and the science. We don't go first, and here's why. How, and you may know this, how much do you think a prospect, what makes a meeting a good meeting for a prospect? How do they know it's a good meeting if we put
Sure. I mean,
ourselves
I
in their shoes?
guess my immediate response would be it leads to a second meeting with
Yeah,
deeper dive.
they're interested. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good meeting for you because you want to get the second meeting. But what makes the meeting good for the prospect is if they talk 70% of the time.
Mm, sure.
That's the science. That's the science, friends. I'm not making it up. 70% of the time. Think about that. If you have an hour meeting, that's a lot of time that the prospect needs to talk.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to get good at something. It's not pitching, it's asking questions.
Mm, sure.
So, in a first meeting, we never start with us. We never start with our clients. We train them on ditch the pitch. That's one of our frameworks. You start with them. You start with the prospect and you give them the floor. And you ask them about their story because guess what people like to talk about? Themselves.
Yeah.
And you ask questions. And you know what happens? You learn something about them and their specific situation. And maybe you find some common things that you share. I don't know. It's more about making a friend, really, if that was the vibe, than it is about trying to close a deal.
Yeah.
Okay? So
Yep.
give them the floor. And then it's your turn. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think the data may not even come into that meeting. Because to your point, win for you is a second meeting. And maybe the second meeting is where you get into the data because they're not going to buy after one meeting.
Yeah.
So why are we trying to close the deal in one meeting?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, good. Interesting. I do like that a lot. I do that on our sales prospects of I just love to listen to people and hear their stories. So maybe
Yeah.
naturally coming, but yeah, I like to hear what people are doing, what they care about, what their challenges are, all that good stuff versus going right into the pitch. That's for sure.
Yeah. And for you, I can't turn this off. So it's not that you asked. I'm just telling you. So I
Yeah.
apologize. But, you know, they're solving the problem somehow, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet or some
Yeah,
free list
exactly.
they've got.
Right.
They have a current solution And it will help you immensely to know what that is. So when you say to someone like, so like what kind of challenges, or like when you're trying to get to the problem, that can be tough because it's like, tell me about your problems. Like no one's really all that keen to do that. But if you say, how are you doing X, Y, or Z now? Like, what does that look like? Then you like think about how much intel you're getting that helps you put yourself in the shoes of this buyer. It's massive.
Yeah, right.
If they
Yeah.
say they're using PitchBook, that's much different than if they say, well, I'm using Excel and a SEC list.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Cool. Good. Any other thoughts on we're going a lot of different directions, but first meeting, second meeting, any other frameworks you'd like to
Yeah.
share? Yeah.
So let's try to like make it linear. So we're gonna do personal brand.
Yep.
That's you. Let's just say we're gonna focus on backstory. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we want to take it to we're going to keep, now that's also a little bit of the storytelling thread, but we're going to pull that thread down towards like, okay, what's the story of the company you've built or the funder, the thing, right? The business, the job story. You want to have that in your back pocket. You want to understand how humans buy. So we've got personal brand, we got the art of storytelling, and how to tell the story, right? We practice some of that. And we've got the science of human behavior, which is the heart buys first,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So
Right.
we've got those things. There's more, but this is just a good starting point. So the heart buys first. Now we've talked about what does this look like in real life? Well, human behavior tells us a good meeting is when the prospect talks 70% of the time. So we want to get them telling their story too. It's not just about us. It's not just storytelling. It's story listening and asking good questions. We're
Yep.
kind of rocking and rolling. We've
Yeah.
done a lot in a
Yeah.
short amount of
Like
time
it.
here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of this, simple, not easy.
Right.
Not easy.
Totally.
Totally. Also, like uncomfortable and different and weird and all insert all adjectives that sound like that, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not what we've been trained to do.
I find that actually getting people to ask to tell their story, especially when someone you just met on Zoom,
Yeah.
actually can be easier because maybe you're nervous about a sales call. You're like, but getting them talking actually like, okay, now I can relax. I don't know. I find it like,
Such a great point. I wrote an article about this not too long ago, which is how awkward meetings are. Aren't they so awkward?
it can be.
Like whether it's Zoom or in person, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, the awkwardness level of a first meeting is like a 7, 8. I
Sure.
mean, it's just weird, and especially if you don't know each other, and like if it's in person, you're like, where I'm in this big conference room, and where do I sit? Like who's sitting where? And here's my card. I'm trying to shake your hand. I got all this material. Like it's just all kinds of weird, right? So to your point, it's a great point. How do you knock the awkward down? Certainly not by going into your pitch. That doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things you can do to get the awkward out, shake the awkward out, is just be a person. Look around. If you're in the conference room, what's on the walls? If you're in their office, is there a picture? Are there books? People don't put things on their wall unless it means something to them.
Yeah.
So what can you like just at again, it's like, wow, or wow, this is a great view, or gee, what's that? Or that's a cool piece of art. Like, because it's not about the meeting. It's just about us being in this room together and like just it's kind of like the hype man sort of thing. And I
Totally.
think those pieces of the art of that is kind of lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Small talk is awkward, but I mean, you're not really talking about small talk, but that is kind of small talk, right? It's
It
like,
is. It's like, how do we start this off? And I
yeah.
think everybody's feeling the awkwardness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So somebody in that room has to take control of that and knock it down.
Yep. Good. This is great. what have we not covered? What other
Yeah,
key?
I'm trying to think. Well,
Yeah.
I always want people to like walk away, like get your notebook, listen to this again, take some notes and practice. I wanted to give you a hack
Yeah.
on story that I
Our
forgot to give
people
you.
love hack. Our audience
Okay, good.
loves hacks.
So
So
we love
yeah,
hacks. Great. We're going to do hack.
let's do hack.
Okay. So when you're doing your backstory, and I'm telling you, you got to have tension and you want like a messy middle and stuff, everyone is like, oh, like, what do you mean? What am I talking about here? All right. A lot of times, the hack to get to the heart part and the emotion of your story, if somebody's struggling or if you're struggling, pause and think about your mentor. As
Okay.
soon as you think about your mentor, you feel something. So that gets your heart engaged. And it's very difficult for somebody to talk about their mentor without engaging the heart. So it can kind of shake you out of like your professional self doing the bullet points of the resume. So if you were doing it on your own, I would just, if you find that it's like boring, you don't want a boring backstory. Pause, get a piece of paper, and just write about your mentor. And that could be a professional mentor. It could be your grandfather. It could be your mom. Just write about someone who meant something to you and why. And then challenge yourself to say, how has that person and that experience, how does that show up now in my professional life?
Interesting. Just to sort of activate the heart muscle, so to
Yes.
speak. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right. Because we
Mhm.
don't, again, we've been trained not to do that. So you almost have to get a hack to get your brain to sort of like, okay, brain, stop thinking. I need to feel something here.
Yeah, interesting. I won't keep you too much longer. How you doing on
Yeah.
time? Are you able to go over just a few
Yeah, of
more minutes?
course. Of course.
Perfect. So a couple questions. Yeah, I noticed like maybe this is under the context of the personal branding.
Yeah.
I noticed like on your social channels you have a lot of stuff, a lot of little short video clips. Like, what do
Yeah.
you recommend people? Do you recommend, maybe an emerging fund manager to start posting these type of little clips
Yeah.
of them walking on the beach with their dogs
So
talking about?
everybody can do the beach walk. Yes. So
Yeah.
here's why.
Uh-huh.
I do recommend that. Also, everyone's cringing and like rolling their eyes. It's okay. That's what I do all day. I have that conversation with really successful fund managers who are like, ah, but they know, right? Like we kind of know we need to do something with our personal brand. We just don't really know what or how, or we don't really want to. So you don't have to go crazy, but just for kicks, if you Google yourself, I
Mhm.
want you to do this and see where LinkedIn shows up. Then I want you to pretend that you're not you, you're your biggest prospect. And I want you to click LinkedIn and I want you to tell me, remember, you're not you, you're the prospect, how that hits. Because they're going to Google you.
Sure.
They're going to Google your firm, but they're going to Google you, and LinkedIn will show up because it's LinkedIn. Right? So the thing with your personal brand is that it enters the room before you do, whether or not you have any intention around that brand. You can ignore it, still going to enter the room before you. You can put a picture of you up from 30 years ago. It's going to enter the room before you do. And then when you walk in, everyone's going to go, oh my God, it doesn't look like your LinkedIn profile.
You failed horribly. Yes, no. Um,
I mean, but like for real though, like
right.
that is going to happen.
Yeah. Do you reckon about the LinkedIn results? Are you sort of suggesting that if you created a good personal brand, your LinkedIn should actually be sort of below, several links down and a bunch of other stuff up top? Is that
It's a
kind of
great question. So I actually, my baby step into personal brand is at least do your LinkedIn profile. That's more what I'm suggesting.
right?
I have I have a website and I've all, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. At least take an intentional approach to your LinkedIn profile. The whole bit of it, from the photo to the banner to the words to the job, like everything on there, because people will go there. Now, that's
Yeah.
just like personal brand 101. At least do that. I think, and that's almost defense for real, right?
Table stakes. I think that's what it's
Offense,
called,
you
right? Yeah.
just own it because it's entering the rooms before you.
Yeah.
Offense would be do something more with that. You don't have to, but I can tell you that 90% of our leads come from LinkedIn. We don't do any outward prospecting.
Yeah. Interesting. Any
So,
social channels that you love people to build their personal
you
brands
know,
on? Or, yeah.
I have friends who have a, you know, larger personal brand presence than I do who are doing YouTube. I have not done that. I think LinkedIn, it's enough. I mean, it is the professional
Yeah.
social channel, and I don't need more than that right now. Um, and so it's enough for me. And also, I don't have time. Like, I do my own LinkedIn, so I don't have time for like the YouTube and the other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Interesting. This is I always tell people like I always know how a podcast has gone depending on how many notes I have, and I have like pages of notes already. You're a
Yay! That's good. And look, I hope it gives you some ideas. I mean, in the green room, so to speak, before we started, I wanted to really understand we didn't do your story. We could have, but I wouldn't put you on that hot seat. But kind of like what you've built and why and for whom, because I hope it gives not only your listeners some exercises and frameworks to tap into and hacks because they like hacks, but also for you. This is just good. I mean, I take myself through this every couple months, like once a quarter, I kind of go through this again because stories are iterative and we're all on a journey. So they evolve and they change and you see what resonates and what doesn't. And you just roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really interesting. I love it. Lots of good thoughts and ideas here. I love
Great.
the personal branding element, the why, the backstory, the tying that to the future journey of your hero or your prospect, all that good stuff. If people want to look, anything else to add? I feel like
No, I mean, I'll just give, you know what? I will give one more thing. It's not a hack. I wish I could have a hack. I don't have one handy, but maybe it is. So we'll call it the hack is this. People don't want your perfect. They want your real. So if you were listening to all of this and you're like, oh my gosh, it's got to be extra polish perfectness that I put out here, don't. Look up a behavioral science thing called the pratfall effect. Pratfall. Look it up and you will know I'm telling you this not just from my heart, but from science. People do not want your perfect. They want your real.
Interesting. I like it. All right. On that note, if people want to learn more, it's havenercapital.com, right?
Yes. Yep.
Any shout outs or call to actions or anything? Or
Yeah, I mean, connect with me on LinkedIn. Look, I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming over to LinkedIn and tell you, don't go to my website, go to my LinkedIn. Now you're there. You might as well do your profile.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got you there.
You have a lot of great stuff on your I was spending some time browsing your posts.
Yeah.
Before this call.
I hope it's helpful. I try to give actionable things. I try to be inspirational too, but I always try to, do a couple actionable posts every week in addition to the inspo.
Stacy, this is really cool, fun
Yay.
stuff. Hopefully we'll inspire some great emerging fund managers to adopt the story, and this is awesome. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I hope it's helpful. I look forward to seeing everybody on LinkedIn. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. Bye.